start with a short reading about posture in meditation. And then I thought we could sit for about 20 minutes. And then I'll do another reading and we can have a little bit of discussion after that if people want. And then I thought we'd finish with about another 20 minutes or so sitting to finish. So this first short reading is from Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, which probably some of you are familiar with. The most important thing in taking the zazen posture is to keep your spine straight. Your ears and your shoulders should be on one line. Relax your shoulders and push up toward the ceiling with the back of your head. And you should pull your chin in. When your chin is tilted up, you have no strength in your posture. You are probably dreaming. Also, to gain strength in your posture, press your diaphragm down toward your hara, or lower abdomen. This will help you maintain your physical and mental balance. When you try to keep this posture, at first you may find some difficulty breathing naturally. But when you get accustomed to it, you will be able to breathe naturally and deeply. Your hands should form the cosmic mudra. If you put your left hand on top of your right, middle joints of your middle fingers together, and touch your thumbs lightly together, as if you held a piece of paper between them, your hands will make a beautiful oval. You should keep this universal mudra with great care, as if you were holding something very precious in your hand. Your hands should be held against your body with your thumbs at about the height of your navel. Hold your arms freely and easily and slightly away from your body, as if you held an egg under each arm without breaking it. You should not be tilted sideways, backwards, or forwards. You should be sitting straight up, as if you are supporting the sky with your head. This is not just form or breathing. It expresses the key point of Buddhism. It is a perfect expression of your Buddha nature. If you want true understanding of Buddhism, you should practice this way. These forms are not a means of obtaining the right state of mind. To take this posture itself is the purpose of our practice. When you have this posture, you have the right state of mind, so there is no need to try to attain some special state. When you try to attain something, your mind starts to wander about somewhere else. When you do not try to attain something, you have your own body and mind right here. A Zen master would say, kill the Buddha. Kill the Buddha if it exists somewhere else. Kill the Buddha because you should resume your own Buddha nature. Okay, it's nice to see a few more people came after we started. So what I'd like to do this evening is share with you all a short thing that I wrote after sitting here. Actually, it was December 4th, 2024, and I was sitting here in the morning and had a bit of an inspiration, and I went home and wrote up this piece. And it was actually inspired by this book called Nothing Special by Joko Beck. I don't know if any of you have heard of Joko Beck, but she founded the San Diego Zen Center. And I first met Joko, almost 25 years ago. And I was a member of the Zen Center for several years in the early 2000s, and then I sort of had kids and kind of got away from it. But recently I've started going again, and it's still going strong. Unfortunately, Joko is no longer there, but this is a really great book, and she starts out this book by using the analogy of a whirlpool for a human being, for what we are. And I thought that was a really powerful metaphor. And I'm not going to read anything from this book. I actually, last time I presented here, I read a passage from that book, but I'd like to read what it inspired me to write. So what I titled this was Patterns, Flow, and the Illusion of Separateness. A whirlpool in a river is a powerful metaphor for how to view the true nature of our experience as human beings. Since rediscovering this passage about whirlpools in Joko's book, Nothing Special, Living Zen, I have been reflecting on this metaphor a lot in my practice. I am a biologist by training, and it has often been helpful for me to consider what human beings are from a scientific standpoint. Physics tells us that we are complex, interacting systems that are manifestations of atoms, matter and energy, the same matter and energy that makes up other life forms and, in fact, all things in the universe. Carl Sagan famously stated that we are stardust, which is literally true, since the atoms in our bodies were in fact born in distant stars. If we are made of the same stuff as everything else in the cosmos, why does it seem like we are separate and distinct from other people, other life forms, and certainly from other non-living things? I think the reason for this is that our minds mistakenly believe that systems and patterns are static, separate, and permanent entities. Language creates and reinforces this illusion, since we have separate words for these systems and patterns that lead us to believe that they have clear boundaries and independent existence. Language is a powerful tool for communication, but it leads us to believe that a whirlpool or a rock or a tree or a person or anything that we have a word for somehow truly exists as a separate, static, permanent thing. However, upon closer inspection, we see that this is not the case. For example, a whirlpool may appear to be a separate, distinct entity, but it is never other than the river, with water continuously flowing in and flowing out. Without this flow of water, the whirlpool ceases to exist. A A whirlpool is a temporary manifestation that arises due to certain conditions, persists for a while, and then dissolves and disappears. The word whirlpool can make us think of something permanent. The word whirlpool refers to the circular spinning pattern we observe, which seems to stand out as being somehow separate from the river. However, it is not separate or static or permanent, but rather is in a constant state of change and flux, and is always comprised of the same water that makes up the river as a whole. As manifestations of matter and energy, we too are systems comprised of patterns, albeit highly complex patterns that arise due to certain conditions shaped by our genetics and environment. Like whirlpools, we are collections of atoms that are flowing and interacting in various ways. The atoms in our bodies form complex molecules, cells, and tissues that are characterized by constant motion and change. The cells of our bodies are born, exist for a period of time as macroscopic systems or patterns, and then disintegrate and dissolve. All life forms are primarily temporary patterns. A key point that is easy to forget or overlook is that, like a whirlpool, we in our individual cells are continuously changing and in flux. Moment to moment, our bodies require the inflow and outflow of matter and energy to survive and thrive. With each in-breath, oxygen enters the lungs, passes into the bloodstream, and then is pumped by the heart to reach and nourish every cell in the body. Cells then release carbon dioxide as a waste product that is carried back to the lungs and removed from the body in the outbreath. If this inflow of oxygen and outflow of carbon dioxide is interrupted for even a few minutes, our cells will be starved of the energy they need to survive, and we will die. The temporary pattern that is our life form will disintegrate and disappear. In another example of the flow that sustains us, food and water enter our bodies and resulting waste products are removed. Amazingly, it has been estimated that this flow of atoms and molecules allows the trillions of cells that comprise our bodies to be completely replaced at least once every 7 years. So science tells us that we literally are the stuff of the universe, that we are life, and that our bodies are continuously in a state of flux with the so-called external environment. Recognition of this constant flow and change from a scientific perspective can make it easier to recognize that the thing we refer to as self, or as I, or me, simply refers to an impermanent and ever-changing system or pattern that is not separate, since it has no boundaries and is in a constant state of flux. When we truly experience this flow and our aliveness moment by moment, the experience of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity naturally arise. So I'd like to see if anyone has any thoughts or anything to add. Yeah.
I just wanted to say I really liked that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty well written.
Thank you. Yeah, I was kind of inspired. Yeah.
I was just saying it's very interesting to hear a biologist's perspective. I always think of Buddhism as something that embraces and embodies science in such a way that makes it easy to adopt. So it's nice to hear from you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just think it's helpful sometimes because we talk about these ideas of connectedness and flow and not being separate, but it sort of helped me when I was reflecting to realize that that's actually literally true. And we don't seem to experience the world that way. We feel separate sometimes.
It seems we put a lot more energy in creating labels that define difference than we do in finding that lack of difference, the indivisibility between things, the connectedness. Why is there no science of breaking down and deconstructing labels in that sense?
Yeah, it's. I think this is one of the things that's particularly hard. I mean, one of the things that's nice about just sitting is that we're not putting labels on things. We're just kind of experiencing what's happening. But yeah, as soon as we start to talk and start to put labels on things and break things up, then that creates these so-called boundaries, right? Everything seems so separate. But, makes it challenging. Yeah.
I'm kind of new to Buddhism.
Yeah.
I just know about it. But what's kind of the point of conceptualizing reality this way as like everything is one and like there's no true separateness of things? I don't know. I'm just like.
No, that's a good question.
It's a hard concept to like even just grasp like on the step one. You know, but and then I'm just immediately trying to translate this to, okay, well, how does this affect my life?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what is your life? You know, I mean, it's, I think Zen, specifically, is really telling us and encouraging us to experience our lives directly. So, yeah, I mean, all this conceptualizing really isn't the point, right? The point is, how can we learn to experience our lives directly, moment by moment, and essentially not miss our lives, right? Because it seems to me that the human mind, as its default, wants to wander and wants to go from this to that and the future and the past and planning and worrying and, you know, just all the crazy things that our minds do. You know, we're in this constant dialogue with ourselves. And I think when we sit and we sort of stop and we close our eyes, it's a helpful way, I think, to actually try to directly experience what is our life moment by moment. You know, can you notice that sound or that experience, you know, the feeling in your knee or, I mean, that's really what Zen is about. It's not, no one, I don't think any wise Zen teacher would tell you that it's about a particular concept. I mean, the problem is if I say that to you, that's a concept, right? But, you know, again, this Zen mind, beginner's mind, really is, I think, a good book because it really focuses on that. It focuses on the importance just of sitting. You know, sitting and experiencing whatever arises in your experience, right? I mean, it's actually really boring for the mind. I think that's a problem. We don't want to do it, really. You know, in fact, I read this thing and it's kind of all flowery and nice ideas and I can paint a picture or whatever, but, you know, I think more what Zen is actually experiencing moment by moment. What are you feeling? What's, you know, can you experience your breath? Can you hear a sound? Can you really just kind of be there for whatever's happening? Yeah.
I think I could make a comment on that. I don't think it would be accurate to say, I could say why everything is connected is so important, but a practical application is the ego, from my perspective, seems like it's kind of hardwired for survival and keeping us going. And it does a lot of negative things to us, from time to time. It's really good at creating separation. If you ask me what I wanted to, I could tell you, I'm hungry, do you want to go eat? And you could ask me, do you want to go here? And I could probably tell you all the places I don't want to go, but I might not be able to tell you the places that I do want to go. But one of the good things about paying attention and being mindful is you start to realize that survival mechanisms don't necessarily serve you all the time or serve you in times of peace, if that makes sense. And a lot of the times we are in a peaceful state and kind of don't necessarily notice that. So.
Yeah, I think you're getting at something really important, which is that our minds are the way they are because it's adaptive, right? It's useful to us to be able to imagine the future, to be able to plan, to be able to, but it's also harmful to us, right? Because then we can be anxious, right? We can actually imagine a future where terrible things happen, but in point of they don't actually happen, probably, right? But we'll sit and worry about it while we're actually perfectly safe. And so it's useful to be able to imagine things, but it's also... So I think there's a contradiction there, right? Between things that make us, that are really valuable to us as human beings, but that also cause us a lot of suffering. And I guess one thing that Zen practice or meditation practice can help with is bringing awareness to that, right? And to have a little bit of space around that, so we might recognize when we're just thinking about something that might happen or that happened yesterday or that isn't actually important for what's happening right at this moment, right? But on the other hand, it can be useful to rehearse, what am I going to say tonight? Or, what do I need to get at the grocery store or whatever? It's like, these are, language is incredibly useful, but it also divides everything up and creates a lot of separations. So, yeah. Anyone else have anything to add, or we just want to sit? Yeah.
I wanted to add from the very first part when you read to us before we had our initial zazen meditation, that it was very useful for me within sitting and trying to just sit and keeping my mind away from wandering, because understanding where my body is physically in the posture, my ears and my shoulders, my head and my chin, my diaphragm and my feet on the ground and my knees is very much keeping me in the moment, and it's a good place to fall back to without judging. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it good? Is it bad? But just where are they? Kind of standing up and down and staying with my breath. I really appreciated that as a tool.
Yeah, I think it's important to start with what are we doing here physically, right? And how does that help this process, whatever it may be, right? But I think it is, it's helpful to be kind of grounded and have a straight spine and sit in a way that's comfortable, that you can actually try to remain still as much as is comfortable. All right, well, let's see. We've got, I'll maybe sit for like another 15 minutes or so, if that's okay. And, Thanks, everyone, for coming. Meredith has a few announcements before we all leave.
Hey everybody, tonight's host Meredith. We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program meets every Thursday at 4:30. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and bring it back whenever you're done with it. If you could straighten your seat or cushion before you head out, that would be great. And if a few people could stay and close and latch the windows, that would also be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well, and we hope to see you again soon. And the last thing is, this Wednesday at 7 o'clock, if you've never sat with a Lama from Tibet and you would like to, we will have one here. He's been here before. He's lovely. And we're looking forward to seeing him again. That's it. Have a nice night.